Hello and welcome to another edition of State of Affairs here on QTV. And I'm Suleiman Dabo, sitting in for Aliou Cisse and Sidi Cisse. And today in the program, we'll be talking about food in the Gambia and food for that matter, especially for the year 2023. The report that has just been released is not looking very well for the Gambia. So that's what we'll be talking about. And to talk about that, there are three institutions in this country who are very critical when it comes to food security in the country, and they are the Ministry of Agriculture, the WFP, which is the World Food Program, and the WFO. So these three institutions, FAO rather, they are here with us in the studio to talk about this. And in the persons of Mrs. Fatou Jame Toure, she is from the Ministry of Agriculture. We also have Mr. Mustafa Cisse, who is from the FAO, that's the Food and Agriculture Organization. And also with us is Mr. Yasuhiro Sumura, who is from the World Food Program. Welcome, gentlemen and lady, to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's start with the report itself. The report is from Cadre Harmonize. I'm not sure if I get that pronunciation correctly, but what they're saying is that above 12% of the population of the Gambia could not have access to food in the Gambia in the year 2023. They gave the period June to August. This could be a problem in the Gambia, and that's the next year. It's less than a year before this problem will become a reality. So first, I want to get the reaction from the three of you. First, let me start with you, Madam Toure. The reaction that you have after receiving this report.
Thank you very much, Dabo, for having me and my colleagues on this program. Definitely speaking, when we received this document, it was shocking because, as you know, our clients are the farmers, and if you look at the figures that are portrayed here, it is the same smallholder farmers who are feeding the Gambia who you will find within these numbers. It has shocked us. But notwithstanding, we will be resilient to double up our efforts to work towards having a well-resilient food system for the Gambia. And there are so many efforts in place to be able to achieve that. Okay. And we are working with our partners like the two on the flanks, WFP and FAO, who are very good partners in this area, plus other donor partners to be able to reduce these figures.
Right.
Yes, it's an alarming
and the
figure.
figures, to be exact, are 319,600 people, which is about 12% of the population. A population of the Gambia is about 2 million people. So 319,000 people, that's a whole lot of people that could go through this. So let me get your reaction to the report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dabo. Yeah, this is data that was collected with the help of international donor agencies, international partners that are from the Africa region. And this exercise is done annually to help countries in Africa, specifically in our case, West Africa and the Sahel, to plan better in terms of food security and nutrition.
Okay. Mr. Somora?
Thank you very much, Mr. Dabo. I agree with the two colleagues. And just to add, the situation of the food insecurity has been deteriorating even before. And right now, last year, it was already a worst food insecurity. And this year, now the record was renewed. We are still in the worst food insecurity compared to last year. Why? Because of the impact of COVID, slow recovery from COVID, and also the impact of the Russia-Ukraine crisis that took place earlier, still continuing this year. So that deteriorated the situation. But the trends of the deterioration was here even before because of the climate shocks.
Okay. So climate shock you would say was probably the main factor?
Main factors.
Before the crisis of the Ukraine war and the pandemic?
Exactly.
Okay. I want us to talk about that a little bit more. The causes of food insecurity in the Gambia. You would think that would not be a problem for the Gambia, just for the mere fact that the Gambia is an agricultural country. A lot of people are involved in agriculture. You would wonder why we would go hungry when we have, or when we could produce a lot of food in the country. Any of you could answer
Yes, that is, very true. It is really amazing that a country like the Gambia, whose backbone is really in agriculture, to go hungry. But if you look at the agricultural production system, you will see that the system is not sustainable in many instances. Even though we have access to water, but you will see that the number of agricultural area that are irrigated, or the total area of agriculture that can support year-round production is still very low. And efforts must be made to increase the areas that are able to support year-round production, especially in the off-season. Because if you suffer setback in the rainy season, you still have a chance in the off-season to come back.
That is by depending on
irrigation.
Okay.
And this is, what it takes to build a resilient agricultural system.
Okay.
Where, you have sustainable production systems, where you have buffer stocking, and you have access to inputs and technology.
Okay. I want us to talk about what can be done right now to help these people if this thing becomes reality in August. But for now, let's talk about what we just been talking about, and that is how to improve production. And I want to get what you got to say to that as somebody coming from the Ministry of Agriculture.
Thank you very much once again. I would like to just add a bit on the climate hazard component that is affecting agriculture. As we are all aware, in the Gambia, our agricultural system is rain-fed. And looking at the erratic nature of rainfall in the Gambia, sometimes you have above average, sometimes below average. When it is below average, we suffer droughts and food production is affected. When it is above average, we suffer flood and still food production is affected. So looking at the agricultural system, what we are working for as a ministry is to make sure the system is climate resilient. Climate resilience in a sense that we have to go for more dry season cultivation, where we are working on our dry season ecologies to be able to have a lot of production during the dry season, working on the canals, working on the irrigation system. As I am speaking to you, we are working very hard even to transform the irrigation systems from fossil fuel to solar energy, which will be more affordable to the farmers and more economical. And then we'll be able to sustain them because we have enough sunlight in the Gambia. It will be easier for us to sustain solar-powered generators to pump water than fossil fuel-powered generators. Other than that, too, we are working very hard to get the farmers adapt to farming practices that are climate resilient. For example, going for agroecology farming. At the moment, we are just from stakeholder consultation to promote agroecology in the Gambia, backed by ECOWAS and France Development Fund.
Okay.
So these are some of the steps we are taking among the many steps that are in the pipeline.
And I'm sure you've had this before. Agriculture, again, like I said before, is the backbone of the economy of the Gambia. A lot of money, especially this budget. I'm not sure if it's going to be approved or not, but from the Minister of Finance, there's a huge chunk that is allocated to the Ministry of Agriculture to be able to do things that you just been talking about. I'm not sure whether that is something that you want to talk something about. You think you have enough resources now to do, or to do what you plan to do?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
So the
yet.
Minister of Finance need to increase the budget?
Yes, need to increase the budget.
Okay.
Let them honor their international commitments.
Okay.
For example, the Maputo Declaration of 10% of every government's budget to be allocated to agriculture if we are to have meaningful production and food self-sufficiency.
Okay.
We have to honor that, then we see what next.
Okay.
Yes.
He's very...
The resources we need
yeah.
are not yet at our disposal.
That's your disposal. He was here last week. He was the one we had last week for State of Affairs. I'm sure he'll watch this program, and he will react to you. But let me get your reaction too, Mr. Samora. When you work with the Ministry of Agriculture, what kind of policy advice do you give them, or do you give them other kinds of support besides providing policy advice?
Well, our support is at all levels, from policy levels, but also strategic level, also operational level also. Mm-hmm. So we work closely. Even for this cadre harmonisé, the data which fed this analysis is done by Ministry of Agriculture, FAO, and WFP. Which is called the National Food Security Survey. So the data collection, data analysis, we also support the Ministry of Agriculture. I want to add what our colleagues said about the current food insecurity and agriculture, why agriculture is not, feeding all people. Climate shocks and the lack of resilience is really true. But also the agriculture is very for subsistence. It's small levels, and productivity is low.
Very low.
And also access to the market is very weak, and loss is very high. So first of all, productivity, but also the production cannot go to the market, and then it will not reach.
Because farmers mostly don't have storage facilities to keep their produce.
Yes.
If they have those facilities, probably something that you harvest this year could last with you for a whole year. I remember I was born and raised in a farming community. I know we used to harvest food that could last with us for a whole year. So we don't go through what is reported here. And that's why it's been shocking to me. This is so dear to me, because I have people who live in the provinces, these areas that you're talking about here. I have family members who live there. So it's worrying to me that we've gotten to this stage where people don't produce enough to last with them for a year. These are the systemic problems we have. No storage facilities. Like you said, climate change is there. So now I want us to talk about what can be done. For now, what are the plans that you guys have in place? I look at the recommendations that this report gave for short and medium term, and it's talking about expansion of the social safety net to more vulnerable households. I wonder how we do that.
Yes, I can talk about it.
Yes.
So this is more immediate and short-term intervention, because it is clear that according to the analysis, there are people who are extremely vulnerable, and they cannot access to the market. Even if there is a market physically there, they don't have enough money to buy.
Correct.
And this year the production was slightly better compared to last year, but already last year the production was not good. So it doesn't mean that it's good. So the stock at household level will not last more than 3 months. So already people are already highly dependent on market, but even the farmers, they will be dependent on the market. So this is very difficult, and then we have to address the most vulnerable people, and for that, the most effective and efficient way to reach is safety net. And in this country, you have NAFA program conducted by national nutrition agencies funded by World Bank and the government of the Gambia, which has been successfully reaching the vulnerable people. So we are here to complement these efforts. In terms of targeting, you can have different criteria. Already, NANA have some criteria. Our interaction is to review together the criteria, to make sure that these criteria really allow us to reach the most vulnerable people. So, geographic targeting, this analysis allow us to focus on the most difficult areas,
Right.
but also we target the communities, we target the household. Certain household has a specific vulnerability profile, and these need to be supported.
Supported, yeah. Let me get your reaction there,
Yeah,
because this is very key to your ministry.
In connection to the social safety net, we have a project, an active project at the Ministry of Agriculture right now that has done a lot in that area. They have a rapid response package called the Rural Post Stimulus Facility. And this was rolled out to all the regions, targeting the most vulnerable, the most of the poor in the regions, all the regions across the country. And it was in the form of money, 3,500 given to a particular family or a particular household, sorry, in all these regions. And so many households benefited. Apart from the monetary aspect too, seeds were given to gardens to embark on wet season production. Because in the Gambia, what we know as far as gardening is concerned is dry season production. When that is over, it's over for the year until another dry season, giving a gap in the provision of nutritious food in the area of vegetables. So many of the gardens, intervention gardens, are encouraged to go on for rainy season production. And this was very well appreciated, and we hope that it will continue to bridge the gap for nutritious food in this country.
You mentioned something that is that I want you to shed more light on, and that has to do with the money that you provide as support to these people. I'm wondering if you will also consider providing them in kind instead of cash. I say that because a household led by a Jamme Kundanka or a Kamara Kundanka may take that money to go and spend it on something else other than buying food for the family. Has that been a concern to you at all?
Not at all, because here we had an independent evaluation team comprising of the National Steering Committee that is independent of the M&E of the project and the ministry as a whole. This team went out to the field to see what has happened as far as this RFS is concerned. And what we found on the ground is worthy of replication. Yes, we were so encouraged. People were very much happy with what was given to them, and according to what they explained to us, that's what the money was used for. We were very much satisfied with the usage of the money. Yes.
Let me get to the reaction of the...
Yes. Yeah. I mean, well, my reaction would be more in another area. Apart from the social safety nets, I mean, there are also support for production that to allow the affected households to bounce back. So in the dry season, inputs are provided in the form of seed and fertilizer and small equipment are provided to vegetable garden producers at the household level, so that they can produce vegetables, sell and generate income, and this will enhance access to food, so that they have enough money to buy food. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the report, I mean, from the Cadre Harmonise, I mean, you'll find out that, I mean, the household income from agriculture is just 4 to 8%. Yeah, it's just 4 to 8%. I mean that comes from the sale of agricultural produce,
which is very small.
Which is very small for an agricultural country like the Gambia.
That is very small.
Yeah, because I mean, like my colleague rightly said, production is still on subsistence basis.
Yeah.
And farmers are not encouraged to produce in large quantities.
Right.
They will have problems with storage. They will have problems with marketing. They will have problems with transportation. So they are, restricted by,
But one would
market
think
forces.
the three of you, the three institutions, that thing should be able to work itself out. I mean, like providing, like you're saying, you're providing them with the tools that they need to do the farming. You provide support in terms of financial needs or access to markets. When that is done, I'm sure with coordination amongst the three of you, that should be able to happen in the country, don't you think?
Is it storage facility we are talking about here?
No, I'm talking about
Food self-sufficiency
exactly,
and to be market,
and be able
commercial
have access to
agriculture.
market and be able to move from just subsistence farming to large-scale production, so that they are not only producing for what to eat in the year, but then they'll be able to save and then even sell and be able to get probably improve their living standards.
and that of the country for,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. We are working very hard towards commercializing agriculture, but this is multifaceted in nature as far as collaboration is concerned. Agriculture is in charge of the extension service area to teach the farmers how to go on with good practices to be able to produce more food and to sell excess. But there is more to that. Land is an issue, and here when you look at land, it is managed by a different institution. So that collaboration is needed. When you look at the climate shocks, there is a particular institution in charge of climate issues. So all these institutions have to align their efforts. We have to collaborate to be able to achieve the goals of food self-sufficiency. That is what one has to understand, that agriculture is one institution within this process, but there are more institutions that have to come in. Added to the private sector. In fact, those added to the private sector. I'm saying added to the private sector because the private sector should be in the forefront. They should be in the forefront to advance agriculture in this country. The public sector cannot.
Okay, so the ministry's role is to provide the conducive environment,
for investors to come on board.
And what has been the reaction that you've been getting from investors that are ready to? Because I know about one or two who are ready now to come in and invest. One Korean company is ready to come and
in
invest.
Collaboration with your boss, we have opened our doors to them widely for that matter.
Okay.
Because when the Korean seeds came, we were in the forefront to do the testing for it to be able to be not to be rolled out, but to be multiplied.
Okay.
Yes, for more of those seeds to be in country, for farmers to access them.
Okay.
Yes, to be
now
able to
let's talk about how and where you get the support that you provide to the farmers. Mostly you are dependent on donor support, right? Is that how you provide your support? Yes. And in doing so, looking at what is happening around the world, I'm not sure how safe we are in terms of depending on donor support, just because we know, as you mentioned earlier, there's the war in Ukraine, which is a major exporter of grain, and you have the pandemic still with us. I'm not sure how safe we are in terms of depending on donors.
Yes. We should not over-depend on the donors, given the situation. And I'm here in this country since November 2020. But I'm in this sub-region for more than 10 years. The Gambia is a very small country, and the same problems were faced by other countries. And in that countries, or Senegal or Mali, and these countries even have terrorism and war ongoing. So, and then as you rightly said, the donor countries are also suffering. So they prioritize. And Gambia oftentimes is not included in their priority list. Unfortunately, we are doing our best to advocate, but since I came here, I've been doing it. It's quite challenging to attract donor attention, or they understand, but they don't have resources. But there are some generous donors who are investing in these countries, the food securities. We can also, quote some institutions, international financial institutions like World Bank, IFAD, African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank. These organizations are also supporting the countries for multi-year the project, also the Climate Adaptation Fund. So these institutions are there also, but the government donors are becoming more and more
fatigued.
Challenge, yes, fatigue and challenge.
Exactly.
Challenging.
I'm not sure what the position of the FAO is in that. Yeah.
Yes. Again, I mean, another very important issue is the ability of the country to report what is happening in the country in terms of food security and nutrition. And this is exactly what the carte harmonisée is doing.
And so this is very good. Yes. I mean, at least we know where we are, so we take appropriate action before the crisis hits.
And then we are also able to share this information with the donors so that they know that we are dealing with real figures, not just estimates or projections. Yeah, this is also very important.
I think the problem is, yes, we can depend on donors, but I think as a country and as a continent, we need to start relying on ourselves, not to too much depend on support from outside. The world is changing. There are so many shocks that are coming from outside, so depending on outside help can be detrimental to our country. But I want also to talk about the long-term recommendations that we can utilize to have food self-sufficiency in the country. And with that, I want to get first, what do you think could be done as somebody from the from FAO?
Yes, I think, I mean, the first thing that we need to do is to reassess our agricultural production system. In the first NDP, the priority was...
And you're talking about the National Development Program?
National Development Plan.
Right.
Yeah, the plan was to make agriculture more competitive and commercialized.
Okay. I'm told we have to go for a short... Sorry to cut you there, but we have to go for a short commercial break here, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion. And the guest I have with me in the studio are Mrs. Fatou Jammeh Touré, who is from the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Mustafa Cissé from FAO, and Yasuhiro Sumura from the World Food Program. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, the discussion continues.
Espas Motors is the largest and most modern auto service in the Gambia. Espas Motors is the only authorized dealer in Chevy, Mercedes-Benz trucks, Mercedes-Benz buses, Kia, Ford, Futon Mini and Midi buses, Futon trucks. At Espas Motors, we have qualified professionals who use modern technology to diagnose and repair all brands of motor vehicles. Espas Motor services include auto sales, auto repairs, vehicle painting, availability of high-quality spare parts, towing services. We are reachable at any time. Call Espas Motors on 352222 353-4444 or locate us on the Bertil Harding Highway. Espas Motors.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is State of Affairs, and I am Suleiman Dabo. And with me in the studio are Mrs. Fatou Jammeh Touré from the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Mustafa Cissé from FAO, and Yasuhiro Sumura from the World Food Program. Mr. Cissé, you were talking about what can we do in a long term for food self-sufficiency.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dabo. Yes, I was saying that we need to reassess our production system. And even though it is clearly stated in the National Development Plan that we need to make agriculture more competitive and more commercial, but we were really not successful in the sense that we still do not have the value chains assessed properly in a way that we can find niche commodities.
When you say value chain, what are you talking about?
Yeah, basically I'm looking at a crop from seed.
From okay.
to plate.
Okay. Like from harvest to consumption.
Yes.
Okay.
So everything that is involved. Accessing the seed, accessing the inputs, preparing the farm, cultivating the crop, marketing the crop from the field, transporting it to where it is value added, where it is processed and value added.
Correct.
And where it is marketed and brought to the consumer.
Correct. Okay.
So this is the value chain.
Okay.
So we need to be able to assess the value chains and enhance the value chains.
Okay. Add value to the product, to the product that is going to be purchased by the final consumer.
Yes, that is part of it.
Okay.
But also, I mean, transporting it to the consumer is also
part of, yes.
Being able to store it so that, I mean, at the time when it is overproduced, it is not wasted.
Correct.
Post-harvest losses are reduced or eliminated.
Okay.
And the market input, I mean, the supply to the market is pretty much year-round.
Okay.
So that is, I mean, basically what the value chain approach does.
Okay.
It helps you to do that.
And this is an area you think that needs to be enhanced.
That needs to be enhanced.
Okay.
I mean, and this involves, I mean, production support. This involves transportation. This involves processing, and it involves marketing. It also involves capital. And
huge
capital, and not capital investment directly from the government, but capital investment even by the private sector.
Okay.
Yeah, this is where private sector involvement is very crucial.
Okay.
So the conducive environment for private sector, public sector partnership is very crucial in this, I mean, in the area of commercializing agriculture.
Okay.
Then again, finding the niche market. What products can we produce and sell and get large profit? This is what the private sector is interested in. So if we are not able to find these niche commodities, the private sector will not be interested.
To go in there.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So he was talking about something that should concern you with value chain, and we're talking about storage here especially. I think that is a crucial problem that we have in this country. People produce a lot sometimes, but they don't have any storage facility. If you go to Tangier and Brufut, those areas, the fishing community, they can produce, but by the end of the day, they don't have anywhere to store. That is improving, but it could have been better.
I'm happy to know that that is improving. And with the agricultural sector...
Do you agree or not?
Yes, I agree that it is improving. And looking at our sector too, it is improving, just as you have said about the fishery sector. If you look at agriculture in the 70s, the farmers were using the knife to harvest rice.
I did that.
Today, we have some combined harvesters around the rice ecologies to help farmers harvest their rice on time. Though not enough, but it's all about step after step. As we push and align our efforts, we will surely get there. And in terms of the grains, we need warehouses. And as I am speaking to you right now, we have an active project called the Giraffe Project that is going to pilot these grain warehouses to be able to help farmers store their grains to avoid post-harvest loss. With the horticulture sector, we have the Roots Project that is piloting cold storage facilities. At the moment, we have 3 cold storage facilities, one in every agricultural region, one in LRR, one in North Bank, and one in CRR South.
Okay.
These are pilots. And here what we are trying to do for sustainability, we are trying to bring in the market federations to manage these storage facilities, so that what belongs to everybody sometimes doesn't belong to anybody. And we've seen that that has been a problem of this country. You give a facility to a group, they don't take ownership. Even a little nod from a door, they will expect the government to come back or the project to come back to fix that when they have millions in their banks. So these groups are trained to be able to manage these facilities. And if it works, it will be replicated in the other regions.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Sumura?
Yes, indeed. I fully agree with these two colleagues. Nothing really little to add on that. to address the whole value chain. And this is also, we can say that we are supporting the food systems. It's not just the end users or consumers or producers. All process is very important, and private sector, civil society, everybody need to be involved. Last year there was a food system summit in New York, and in the Gambia there was regional and national dialogues on this issue. And indeed, the private sector was there, the NGO was there, UN, the government, and the community people discuss all these issues. And there is even a pathway document for the better food system. And we just need to implement this pathway action, in fact. So we don't need to start from the scratch. And I'd like to talk about one thing, perhaps it's kind of self-promotion, perhaps, but one of the recommendations which was listed was the scale-up of school feeding program. School feeding program is something familiar to all Gambians in these countries, I heard. And it's been there since 1970 or something like that. The approach is now more what is called homegrown. Before the imported food was coming, like Uncle Ben's, etc. But now the schools are buying locally produced food. So it's just not feeding the children with nutritious food daily. It also goes to the benefit of smallholder farmers and traders, because it goes to the local market, right? So homegrown school feeding project is not just feeding, it will feed the Gambian children with Gambian food, with nutritious food, but also to support and encourage the producers. And we need to continue to support, which we have started a few years ago. So it needs to be refined. Still, we need to refine and then better link the smallholder farmers together with schools. You have so many schools in these countries, in all regions. And then imagine that all schools buy food from local producers. Because apart from August, the school holidays, every day there is school meals. So there is a constant market. This can also boost, I think, encourage the producers. And then why not go beyond? Not only supplying the schools, they should also be able to supply the market, and then, get profit. This is, this is a one platform for the small.
No, I think you want to come in.
I want to say that, and in fact, this is an area where the government of the Gambia, has made significant progress. During the cropping season and previous cropping seasons, they had provided subsidies to inputs, and this enhanced the, farmers' access to inputs. So which means that, farmers were able to produce more food. And because of the homegrown school feeding program, they are able to sell directly, to the schools within their communities. And this brings, income to the community.
I was kind of, I tried to reconcile the fact that we have enough rains this year, or more than enough rains this year, even though it has its disadvantages, which is, along the lines of flooding and all that. But you would expect production to increase, meaning not many people will be dependent or will go without food. So that was my confusion when I first read this report. But again, there are a lot of other factors that are involved that could lead to that. But I want also, so let's talk about the areas that are most seriously affected. And I'm surprised, this is from another report where I read, in Kuntaur, for example, in the CRR, and in Janjambure, also in CRR. CRR used to be the region where, rice is cultivated. So I was shocked to learn that this is a region where, most of people could go without food. I don't know what's responsible for that.
For me, I would attach that to the flash floods. During these past years, Kuntaur has been a hotspot for flash floods. not only covering their fields, but water was even covering the residents of Kuntawur.
Okay.
At the moment, if you go to Kuntawur, you find out that the NDMA is coming out, it came up with a project to make the residents more resilient to flash floods. And they are coming up with types of infrastructure that will help the residents to be able to live in Kuntawur. Because if you know Kuntawur, Kuntawur is more of an island. And they are sitting inside the river. At high tide, every compound in Kuntawur is wet. Even houses, you have to make sure you have enough money to be able to raise your house to prevent your house from being moist when at
Do they
high
have
tide.
salt intrusion as well in there?
No.
No, they don't. It's fresh wet.
It's absolutely fresh.
Okay.
Absolutely fresh. But they've been suffering from flash floods these days. Or if not that, Kuntawur has all along been the food basket of this country.
That's why it was shocking to me to learn that they are going through that. Also in Kerewan, with 51.1% of the population, you know, I mean, it's worrying. This is really, really worrying. So again, I want us to talk about what could be done here and the frustration most people have. It will take us back to where we started the discussion. How is it possible in the Gambia that we can go hungry with everything that we have in this country? It is really something that a lot of people are talking about, and I am glad right now that stakeholders like yourselves, including the Minister of Agriculture, are taking this to be very serious issues that we need to tackle. Because definitely Gambia, when you look at it, nobody should go hungry here. I can understand when the way you prepare food, that is an added advantage. But basically, you should not go hungry. You know, if everything remains equal in this country, nobody should go hungry. Will you agree?
Yes, certainly. I certainly agree with you that no one should be hungry in the Gambia.
I'm telling you,
because of, we have the environment. One government think tank used to say, we have swim, we have the sun, we have the water, we have the input, and we have management.
Exactly.
So why?
So why are we like this?
Why should we be?
Well, we have some parts of the equation missing.
And which one do you think is missing? Because really, this needs to be solved.
Yeah,
we really need to solve it.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you look at the Gambia, we clear a lot of land for production. But productivity here is an issue. We have to look at that. You have vast land compared to our neighbors, or you go to the west, you see them, they have a piece of land of the size of this studio, and if they tell you what they harvest,
how much they harvest from there,
of that,
exactly,
you can't believe it.
Yeah.
So I think we need to work on productivity.
Okay.
Right from the seeds that we give to our farmers, from the practices that we use, the farming technologies that are in place. Though we are singing the famous song of mechanization, but even with that, we have to look at whether the machines we are using are suitable for this type of soil we have, so that we will not make more harm than good to our land. As he has said, we have to look at agricultural practices holistically.
But how long are we going to be doing that then? Since 1965, we have to look at this holistically. How long are we going to be looking at it?
Yeah, but if you look at we've made some gains.
I agree.
We've made some gains. Yes. We are not where we used to be. It's just taking too long. Exactly. You have to look at the country, and you know our financial muscles too. We are entirely dependent on donors to revitalize our agricultural sector. So one has to know the country's financial muscles to be able to blame the country for not moving agriculture where it is.
We'll have to blame the country. We cannot take it anywhere else because there's no any other place to take it. We have to take it ourselves, and that is
we have to blame ourselves.
There you go.
Yes,
I will take that, but we cannot take it to anywhere else. This is our problem. We need to solve it. Will you agree, Mr. Yasu?
Yes, I agree. This is a problem of everybody, and also the resilience needs to be built at all levels: household level, community levels, regional level, and national level. So fully agree with that. And perhaps all the regions should not do the same thing.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
The CRR is good for rice production, so go for it. Right? the NBR is millet, perhaps. You know, it depends. You know, West Coast region is more fisheries,
Right.
etc. CRR North. Yes, I was also puzzled. I'm not Gambian, and then I understood that CRR is still the grain basket
Yeah.
in terms of rice.
Yes.
And then in our surveys, always CRR is identified as the most affected area. And
It's shocking.
nutrition also. So there is some structural issues.
In
Or again, as I said, perhaps access to the market. They cannot, perhaps access to the market and then buy, or linkage with other areas. Also, internal migrations. When I visited some of the CRR regions, the villages, I don't know. I did not visit so many often, but there was no young male in the village,
Yeah.
and they are all gone.
Yeah.
It also shows something, right? And in the Gambia, the urbanization really accelerated. And this time, the National Food Security Survey identified clearly the urban food insecurity and malnutrition.
Yeah.
So the high level of population, high density of population in West Coastal region
Yeah.
and Kanifing and Banjul. And then you have the loss of income opportunities, decrease in remittance due to COVID pandemic
Yeah.
and this current situation. And these people don't have a food stock.
Yeah.
They're fully dependent on the market. And in the market, the food is too expensive
To buy.
to buy.
Yeah.
So these people also need to be
I
looked
think
at.
you talked about something that is important, and that is the migration, especially of young people from the rural to the urban area. When I was going to high school, we used to be very happy to live here in the urban areas, to go on vacation to the rural areas, because you don't think about being hungry. Even though the roads were not good, but you still want to go there because there's enough food. Food was not the problem, but now people are living because, like you guys talked about earlier, there is climate change, not enough food is being produced, or farmers want to produce, they don't have the tools to produce to a higher level or high quantity. And so people leave the rural areas to come and look for work so they can support the families back in the rural areas,
Exactly.
or even travel outside the Gambia. So
Exactly.
these are the problems that we have. Young people, if it is labor intensive, especially labor intensive, you need young people to be there. You can't have old people to do stuff like that. So I think one area that we can all agree on, that has to do with young people. How do you encourage them to stay back
Exactly.
there? Yeah.
And then this is vicious cycle, because if the agriculture, farming is not something interesting,
Yeah.
something bringing benefit,
Yeah.
they are not motivated,
No,
right?
no.
So if the agriculture is not something bringing more income,
Yeah.
they will continue to live.
They will want to live there.
Yes.
Because you sell your produce, you have enough food, you can, for example, construct a new house, a bigger house where you live with your family comfortably, you have electricity, you have water. They only need basic stuff and they will be happy.
Yes.
They would want to live.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Well, we have a few more minutes before we wrap this program. Yes.
Just to add to that, I want to still talk about production and productivity. Because here, if you look at young people not fascinated with agriculture, years past, our forefathers used to cultivate a small parcel of land and they get a lot out of it. But today, most of our soils are dead. You need a lot of fertilizer to be able to produce more, chemical fertilizer for that matter, which is very expensive to be affordable by the average farmer in the village. So that's also one of the areas that is discouraging people from farming. They are farming and not getting anything out of it. Yeah,
Okay.
but if we are able to move from high extensive use of chemical fertilizer, able to leave nature to take charge of the environment. We use natural things around us to be able to get fertilizer, as our forefathers used to do. Because we are doing away with the indigenous, totally with the indigenous way of doing things. And this is equally affecting us, because there are good aspects of the indigenous way of doing things. So we have to inculcate some of these good ways to the modern ways of doing things to be able to get what we want.
Let me have Mr. Cisse come in here.
Yes, basically, I mean, from the side of FAO, I think, I mean, there were a number of interventions, I mean, that were done to enhance food security in the Gambia, and this involves the introduction of high-yielding new varieties, the capacity building of and the setting up of the National Seed Secretariat in the Gambia, which, I mean, basically has the mandate to ensure that farmers have access to good quality seed in a timely manner. And also in enhancing the extension services by setting up what is called farmer field schools, where the farmer becomes the extension agent, and they are able to be trained and to extend their knowledge to other farmers.
Okay, wonderful. For people that live in the CRR, for example, these mostly affected areas, if you have any message to tell them now, what would it be, just before we wrap up?
For the people in CRR?
Yes, especially I'm talking about the report, you know, how it's affecting them.
Indeed, this exercise takes place twice a year to prepare ourselves for the coming rainy season, lean season, what it calls, the most difficult months of the year. So it doesn't mean that we have to wait until then. We have to start now. We have to start preparing. And that can be done at all levels. So at community levels, the people in CRR, there are the people in the ground, they know very well, right? And with some support from the regional government and, you know, development partners like us, you know, we can work together to prepare some preventive actions. We should not wait until June, August. 2023, and then we need to do the safety net. Safety net should not, we should not be able, need to do the safety net. We should do more preventive action to support the resilience, so that we will have some small number of people we can support them with safety net. So, you know, we talked about the lot of things, productivity, right? Production, you know, provision of fertilizer, the seeds and imports, and also to perhaps to support them to make their farmlands disaster resistant, because rainy season, we all know that there are, you know, windstorm and floods coming. Also to allow them to have access to water, you know, through irrigation, so that they can do off-season farming even during the dry season. All that need to be prioritized. So, yes, to the people in CRR, they should, you know, try to work together with us and to develop the preventive resilience support.
And also I would advise them not to, engage in negative coping mechanisms. I mean, although...
What do you mean by negative coping mechanisms?
I mean, that means, because they already, foresee that there is shock. Ahead of them. There is stress, food security stress. So they start getting involved in maybe deforestation to make firewood or charcoal burning to sell and get extra income. They are destroying the environment. And this could have been beneficial. And they could get involved in other positive coping mechanisms, like my colleague here so rightly said. They can start thinking of dry season crop production, vegetable production. In CRR, they have the rice fields, I mean, most of the rice fields are not cultivated.
Right.
I mean,
And are
they
you
should go
guys,
back to cultivate
are you
them.
having this kind of conversation with them so they know that support could be coming, but what could be done in the meantime to support themselves?
It's the famous song of the day. We always talk to farmers about this. In fact, tomorrow we'll be having a consultation meeting with farmers in Mansakonko, and it will be repeated there. We always talk to farmers to avoid negative coping mechanisms. There are a lot of gardens in the country.
You know that what just reminded me of. There's a famous saying in Mandinka, which is, if somebody is hungry and you inviting them to have food and you telling them you have to, before you eat, you have to wash your hands first, he will tell you, no, I'm not interested in it. All I'm interested in is to eat the food. You understand? So sometimes they are kind of forced to engage themselves in these negative impact mechanisms, but eventually, like we are saying, the aim is for them to avoid that and to have support.
Yeah,
so I think that's why it is important to have dialogue, conversation with them continuously.
There are other means. We have a lot of gardens across this country, and the government has spent a lot to set up these gardens. But sometimes you go to these gardens, even half is not cultivated. Instead of sitting at home, at the end of the day, you sell your seeds to feed your family. It is better for you to engage on vegetable cultivation.
Correct.
Now, vegetable cultivation has advanced. It is at a stage that even market information and everything is provided by the producers.
Right.
You can sit in Kuntaun and know how much cassava or bitter tomato is sold at the market.
Okay.
So you will be.
I am told we have to end this program here. The program has come to an end. I'm so sorry. That was Mrs. Fatou Jame Toure from the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Yasuhiro Sumura from the World Food Program, and Mustafa Sise from the from FAO. Thank you guys very much for joining us today. I am Suleiman Dabo, and this is the State of Affairs. You can watch this program again on Sunday at 10 a.m. Until then, have a good night.